Very good afternoon, my dear students. Welcome back to our news analysis program. Today we shall be discussing the Hindu dated August 3. I used to tell you every day that to get the best benefit of this program, you must read the newspaper, then watch the program. Of course, hundreds of students have joined our online program these days, and I know that most of the students do not have the habit of reading the newspapers. No worries at all. You have to start at some point of time. You have to start reading the newspapers, especially the Hindu, if you are aiming at a national level examination. And I know that as a primer you would find it very difficult because you may not get connect with things, you may not have any background of the issues, but don't worry, that those are things that are faced by any primer, any beginner. The decision to start reading the newspaper must be decisive. You should spend quality 2 hours sitting in front of your table, reading the newspapers, jotting down important points. That is very essential. So I am going to start without much delay. This is the front page of the Hindu dated August 3. Supreme Court questions states on cases under 66A. President hails Madras legislature's contribution. A very important question even for your examination. President observed that erstwhile Madras legislature had shown seeds of full representative democratic form of governance. So President was addressing the centenary celebration of Madras Legislative Council. The Indian President was attending the centenary celebration of Madras Legislative Council. Very important. It may come even for your exam. So we shall take one by one. Supreme Court question states on cases under 66A. Of course, a few days ago I spoke about this. This may not come for your examination, but it is very important. Section 66A of the IT Act is no longer valid in India because the Supreme Court of India struck down this particular section of IT Act in 2015. But in India, the police are mercilessly using this act to penalize citizens, and they have been using it even though the law, the provision is absent in the statute, and it is quite surprising. Look, the section 66A of the IT Act penalized the sending of offensive messages. Look, sending of offensive messages via online communication, but failed to define the term offensive. When the law was made, the word offensive was very vaguely defined, or there was an absence of the definition for the word offensive. Supreme Court struck down this particular statute, this particular provision of law. So it is no longer there. Rule of law is what is prevalent in India. So you cannot arrest a person under a law which is non-existent. In 2015, it was deemed unconstitutional. When Supreme Court strikes down something as unconstitutional, it is no longer in the statute, it is no longer valid by the Supreme Court due to this vagueness. Vagueness of what? Vagueness of the word offensive. So, however, this provision continues to be used, invoked in cases across the country, and citizens are still prosecuted under it. Quite surprising that ever since 2015, this has been used by the police despite the fact that it is no longer a part of law in India. Law and order comes under the states. Law and order comes under the state list, state's jurisdiction, and hence Supreme Court questioned the states. Why are you using it? Why are you invoking section 66 of IT Act and arresting people, despite the fact that it is no longer in the statute. But these sort of things can happen only in this country. It cannot happen, and that's why Supreme Court has become very serious about it. I hope you have understood what exactly that I have explained. At 35 billion, July exports 34% higher than pre-COVID level. At 35 billion, July exports 34% higher than pre-COVID level. You need not jot down this, take down this, but you should understand how India's international trade is moving. It has increased 34% more than pre-COVID level of July 2019 at 35.17, and but deficit means import minus export, that got widened as gold import jumped 145.5%, 4% from 2019 levels. What is the target? This is important for your exam. The government export target is $400 billion for the full year. For the year 2021-22, the mechanized export target of Government of India is 400 billion. This is the target. And there are signs of hope for the government, as mechanized export has touched 34% higher than pre-COVID level. But whether we can sustain this growth to attain this target for the whole year is yet to be seen. So what are the terminologies that you have learned here? You know about mechanized exports, you know about import, you know about the term trade deficit. What is trade deficit? Import minus export. When import is more than export, there is a trade deficit. When exports of a country is more than import, there will be a trade surplus. So we have learned the terminology trade surplus, we have learned the terminology trade deficit. Keep this in mind. The Hacking of Indian Democracy, a beautiful center page article by Dushwan Dave, who is a senior lawyer of the Supreme Court of India and former president of the Supreme Court Lawyers Association. A beautiful article. This article writes about the recent Pegasus issue. What is Pegasus? Pegasus is a spyware developed by NGO Group, an Israeli company. This Israeli company sells the Pegasus spyware only to governments to check terrorism. There were a few recent reports in Indian media that major Indian politicians, journalists and business tycoons, their telephones were hacked and spied by using Pegasus. There is a huge hue and cry that is going on in the country, especially in the parliament. Parliament has been disrupted for many days now, and a full-fledged inquiry is demanded by the opposition parties. But the Government of India's stand is that legally in India, telephone tapping is possible in India only legally, and government has not resorted to any kind of actions with malified intentions. Dushwan Dave, the senior advocate, says that with the government's denial, a commission of inquiry by the senior Supreme Court, by a sitting Supreme Court judge alone can unravel the mystery. Has the government spied politicians, businessmen, and even a Supreme Court judge, a judge of the Supreme Court? He is also, this is what he said, the government has used Pegasus software to leak secret information, and government says that it has not done it. So the only way out is to appoint a commission of inquiry led by a sitting judge of the Supreme Court of India. So please read, very important. I am sure that you have understood what I meant, what I described. Okay, Amid protests, Supreme Court, Lok Sabha passes bill to amend Insurance Act. Listen, in the 2021 budget, the Government of India, the Finance Minister announced that 2 public sector banks and 1 general insurance company will be privatized. Government is yet to name those companies. Government is yet to name which all companies will be, which all banks will be privatized, and which is the insurance company that is going to be privatized. But to pave way for this privatization, the Parliament has to amend the Act. The General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021. This particular bill is passed by the Lok Sabha. It will allow the government to bring down its stake in state-owned insurance companies, generate required resources, and help public sector general insurance design innovative products. These are all beautiful government language. The essence is that government has decided to privatize 1 general insurance companies, and the bill is introduced in the Parliament to pave way for this privatization. Which insurance company is going to be privatized? Government is yet to reveal. Government is keeping its cards close to its chest. So we have to wait and see which private sector, which public sector insurance company will be privatized soon. So the bill seeks to remove the mandatory requirement of 51% government stake. Presently, as per the present law, in government sector insurance companies, in insurance companies in India, 51% stake has to be with the government. In government insurance companies, 51% stake, government stake is mandatory. In government insurance companies, 50% insurance is mandatory. But that mandatory requirement will be removed by the Act. Once it is done, then the entire stake can be bought by any private player, and opposition parties quite naturally are very strongly opposing this particular law. The bill paves way for privatization process. So it's very important when the bill is passed and signed by the President, comes into an act, it becomes very important. Preventive detention only to forestall public disorder, Supreme Court, very important, but may not come for your exams at all. What is preventive detention? If anybody's action is supposed to contribute to any public disorder, he can be detained as an under trial even if he is not accused. Listen, suppose somebody has done a crime, somebody has broken the law, he can be booked. So when is the law invoked? When somebody breaks the law, that he is booked by the police. But preventive detention is a draconian provision of the Indian Constitution which allows the state to arrest a person even before he may commit a crime. That is what is called preventive detention. Preventive detention is a dreaded power, of the state to restrain a person without trial. Supreme Court says that this can be done only to prevent public disorder. If only his actions may cause some public disorder, that this provision of constitution can be invoked and persons can be arrested. That's what the Supreme Court says. Preventive detention should be considered a necessary evil only to prevent what? Only to prevent public disorder. These are all observations made by the Supreme Court. The state should not arbitrarily resort to preventive detention and deal with law and order problems. Look, the Constitution is very specific. It says that if anybody's actions will resort to public disorder, then the state can invoke preventive detention. But in recent times, what happened is that police have used this particular provision and arrested people without any reason in the name of law and order. So the Supreme Court says that preventive detention cannot be used just to maintain law and order. It says that when preventive detention is supported by a court, it should ask itself, is ordinary law of the land sufficient to deal with the situation? Yes, that's a question. Is ordinary law, there are plenty of laws, you need not invoke this constitutional provision. There are plenty of laws in this country. Are those laws sufficient enough to deal with the situation? If yes is the answer, then preventive detention order will be illegal. That's what the Supreme Court says. So these are all beautiful, important legal and constitutional points. You should know, you must be aware of these things. These are all discussed in this particular class, not for picking probable questions for your bank examination, but I want my students to know things. So please ensure that you all read these things with very big interest. This particular article is a center page article that came up in the Hindu dated August 3. Please read, a very simply but beautifully written article. US pull out worsened Afghan crisis. Ashraf Ghani, the president of Afghanistan, says, I told you about Afghan story many times before. Afghanistan was the military used as a military camp by USA and NATO forces for 20 years to enable the hunt for Osama bin Laden after the attack of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in September 2011 by Al-Qaeda led by Osama bin Laden. The US and NATO forces started a hunt for Osama. They thought that Osama bin Laden was hiding in the Tora Bora region of Afghanistan. The hunt started for many years. We all know that it was only a few years ago that Osama bin Laden was finally spotted in a place called Abbottabad near Islamabad in Pakistan. Once Osama bin Laden was caught and killed by the US forces, the US military interest in Afghanistan diminished, and the previous American president Donald Trump declared in September 2020 that American military forces would start its pullout from Afghan soil by May 2021, and they did the same thing. From May 2021 onwards, both US and NATO forces started withdrawing from the soil of Afghanistan, and that is going to end by the end of August. So all of a sudden, Afghanistan official government stopped getting military support from either US force or NATO forces. All of a sudden, the military ability of the Afghan forces got waned, and by the same time Taliban forces have been attacking the government, and they have got grip over more than 70-80% of Afghanistan. So soon there may be a government change in Afghanistan. The official Afghanistan government may be toppled by the Taliban forces. Afghan president says that American troops pullout has worsened Afghan crisis. Taliban forces are rapidly advancing and they are zeroing in on Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. War between Taliban forces and official Afghan forces have intensified as pullout of US NATO forces started in May. I hope you have understood the story. Please listen to it once again and read. That's very important. Read and try to understand things. That is the essence of good quality life. No formal proposal from Cairn to settle dispute. Center faces 1.2 billion payout to the firm. Cairn Energy ILC is a British energy company. They had a dispute with the Indian Income Tax Department. Income Tax Department of India forced Cairn Energy to pay 1.2 billion in a retrospective tax case. Cairn Energy Limited challenged this particular decision of the Income Tax Department in an international arbitration court in The Hague, Netherlands. The court of Netherlands, the arbitration court in Netherlands, international arbitration court, gave verdict in favor of Cairn Energy and asked the Indian government to repay 1.2 billion with interest and 22.38 million towards arbitration and legal costs. Government of India took a stand that this particular verdict is not binding upon it, and as a company operating in India, it has to go by Indian court decisions. But anyway, Cairn Energy went further and they got an attachment award from a French court. The French government has frozen Indian government's assets in Paris in favor of Cairn Energy. A French court has recently frozen certain Indian government assets in Paris. So, Cairn Energy can sell these Indian assets and realize the money due to them. It was a very big news making case in India. So, when somebody speaks about Cairn Energy, you should have your own contribution to make. Please read the relevant news item. 4 in a row for Cuba's Lopez. Very few people have, only 4 in the Olympic history has made 4 Olympic medals in the same event, and they are Al-Oyst Otter discus throw, legendary Carl Lewis long jump, and Michael Phelps swimming. These are the only 3 players before Cuba's Lopez to win Olympic medals in the same event. Cuban Greco-Roman wrestler Mijain Lopez has become only the 4th athlete in history to win 4 Olympic gold in the same event. Very important, take note of Mijain Lopez. Thank you very much, my dear students, for participating in the program. Let reading continue, and reading will make you more powerful, and others will start listening to you if you are a good reader. So, ensure that you spend good quality time in reading the newspapers and improve your chances to succeed in these exams. We shall have more live classes coming up soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.